Hey, Robin. Think, yeah, you're muted.
Just notice it's starting the recording already, but that's okay. I can cut all of this out.
Yeah. Thanks again for the work on the privacy policy. That's great.
Problem. Trying to establish some policies for the CCIUCN board, so I'm very much in the internal policy mind space right now.
Yeah. And with Todd, I was teasing the board when he was elected, saying that Todd's going to advise on performance assurance, but he's also going to ask about our own organizational health and well-being. And of course, he's already asked for that, Robin. So
That's good.
no, I think no, absolutely. I say that not a jest, actually. It is good for us now that we're moving to a different level. Hopefully, we can sustain the funding, and there's lots to work on. I feel busy. Do the two of you feel busy right now?
Yes. That's an understatement.
Yeah. And even the SAS guys, there's a call at noon and a call at 1 that they wanted me on, but I just, I couldn't do it. I like that work, but maybe the times come where I have to say, yeah, can't really do all of that. But I'm not in, but I'm sitting in on hour-long calls a couple or 3 times a month, and I've told them I'm not going to invoice for that because for me, it's also just kind of staying abreast of issues and learning. So anyway, we should get focused. Yeah, the two of you ready to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So Robin, just wanted to check quickly with you. In the slideshow where you're doing the intro, right?
Yeah.
And so
you're gonna do the section between.
I jump in at slide 7.
Exactly, slide 7 to slide 12, and then Sylvan slide 13 to 19.
Okay. And Bob, like if there's anything you want to add, feel free, right? So it's and I don't know if you want to indicate somehow that you want to add something, or I can just invite you to add something at some point, or
yeah,
what do you feel
I'll try to do a better job than I normally do, and leave it to the two of you, and only if there's something really, really critical or a key point, maybe even to re-emphasize a point that you make, either the two of you or Sylvan make, just to really kind of crystallize what's important. Although I think our key messages are there, so I'm quite happy about that. And I think people will be,
I think so too.
Yeah. And I'm anticipating the same kind of positive response to this that we've been receiving in those one-on-one calls that we've been having with organizations. I'm not I think it'll be fun, is what I'm saying. So I won't. Let's not. I don't think we need. Okay. So what's changed? Timeline. So maybe we say, we're still working toward the end of October, but there may be an extension. So we're, be quite transparent. We may be able to get an extension.
Right.
I mean, we know that's going to go through. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but just. And so what else in that vein? I mean, we provide a report to ECCC, and I wonder how long we would have to wait after ECCC gets the report before, we'd actually post it, right? Because people are going to say, hey, when can I see your feasibility study? I think we're probably saying, we anticipate January, February, just leave it.
Yeah, we can also say, we'll be letting them, like they're on our email list, right? We'll be letting them know.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope to have it available in January or February, and you'll get an email notifying you
Yeah,
when it's.
yeah. And Robin, will you be popping the links in the chat as I say, take the survey again, or if they want to schedule a one-on-one, do we want to invite them to do that?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure that out. And because I only have one screen, I can either show the presentation or be putting the links chat. So I think I might for help. Because I can't, like if I share my screen right now, I share.
Oh, the recording started. Okay.
Yeah, the recording already started. I can edit it.
Okay.
But at least there's no
Yeah.
chance that we'll forget to start it.
No, exactly. Good point.
A good
I'm trying to
idea.
get that little box telling me it started out of the way. My cursor control is terrible. What's going on? Okay.
So right now you can probably see like the whole slide
Mhm.
deck, right? So if I put it in
We
present,
are.
can you see the little box that has your videos in it?
Yeah, I'm in
Bottom
it
corner?
twice. Yeah, we're in it twice.
Okay. So you can see everything that's on my screen. So if I go back here,
Yeah.
then you're gonna see yourselves.
Mhm.
Okay. If I send you the links now, Sarah, would you be able to put them to
Yeah, that's
chat?
what I was wondering.
Well, at the time when I'm mentioning it, that might be a bit
Or-
tricky, but. Or I could put them all in at the end, I suppose.
Yeah.
So finish your part and as you hand it over to Sylvain, maybe say you'll put the links in following your slides.
Okay.
Or the
Sure.
link in following your slide.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if you send me those links, if they were already in the chat so that I can see them now, people coming on later won't be able to see them. Could I just copy and paste them down?
No, they will be able to see them. If I could put them in now, and they'll already be there.
Sure.
And then you could copy and paste them.
Are you sure they'll be there? Because I thought you couldn't see links that were put in before you joined.
I'm not sure how I have it set up.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you don't pick up the chat until you join, so you only get the chats once you're online. Yeah, that makes sense actually. Yeah. So maybe if you have them, Sarah, and then once you're done your slides, just indicate to the group that you'll post the link as Sylvain presents his slides.
Yeah, sure. Then I have to remember to do it.
I really need to invest in a computer so that these things are easier for me to multitask on. Charles and Sylvain will join us shortly.
Okay.
I'm trying to get all the links here.
Okay, so if I should be able to copy them from here, right?
Okay.
Let's try. See if I can do that. Yeah, I can copy the link and then paste it down.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, let me try this and see how,
So you're gonna drive, so we just have to say next slide, please, or are you going to anticipate?
I'll try and anticipate. I'll be following along in the notes from my phone.
Okay.
But if I'm off from where you are, then let me know.
Okay. So where are the notes? I was just sort of like gonna ad lib from reading the slide.
So if you hit the notes button, some of the slides have notes, some of them don't.
Yeah, I'm guessing Sylvan's don't. I didn't think to look actually, but
Some of them, I think some of them do.
some of them do. Okay, good.
Oh no, never mind. No, they don't. They're just quite dense. They're a lot more dense than I would like to see. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's okay.
Okay, so no, that's okay. It's yeah, that's okay.
Oh, see, there's
Yeah.
a few. There's a few notes in here. One or
Yeah, I'm
two.
with you on that. Those Sylvan slides are fairly dense, but I suppose for people who might just see the presentation, then they kind of speak on their own. The slides, I mean.
Mhm.
And you're popping in at the end, right, Robin, with the reminder and the thank you. Okay, and then I can pop up. Okay.
Lovely, nice addition.
Okay. I was trying to put the link on there, but it's too long. No one's going to be able to type it in, so there's no point. And also send a follow-up. It's a recording and the links again. I think once both webinars are done, we'll send out an email with each.
Yeah.
You're happy with what's on your slides? I don't know why it's saying that.
What window are we in? Because can you see yourself twice, Bob?
No, I just see you twice, Sarah. I definitely see you twice.
Yeah, it's where that's being dragged around now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making me dizzy.
Yeah, sorry. That's because that's what's on my screen, and you're seeing just what's on my screen.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes.
I'll leave my camera on too, I think, just, just in case people are looking for who's participating.
Yeah. Okay. So now what's on your screen?
I see the slideshow, Bob, and myself.
And there's Charles.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Charles. That reduced some of my background noises.
How big is it is our view of this going to be? Because right now I can't read a thing on the slides. Oh, that's better. Can you scroll down a little bit to please to?
How's that looking? That should be as big as your screen.
Yeah.
Will allow it to be.
So the one slide is going to be the one with all the data. How does that?
Yeah, that's the one I can't see that at all, to be honest.
Can you access the presentation and print that slide out?
No, I'm gonna see if I turn off the chat. Who's gonna monitor the chat if there's anything? I could maybe have it up on my own screen.
Why don't I
Like,
see if I can join also from my phone.
Well, I can have it right here. It's on my big monitor.
Okay.
And because I can look
Mhm.
into the camera here and read most of what's there, but then for the slide I can't read, I can just switch over to my monitor. But does that work?
Yeah, you can switch over, just, right, you can
I
go
just
to,
have to look over here. Yeah,
so you have that slide showing now? Like you
I
can-
do, yeah.
Yeah.
I
perfect.
can read it. It's like here, I can read it, yeah.
Okay, are you getting any feedback from me? I've joined from my other device now, so hopefully. So now I can see what you're all seeing. And I've got two
Mm.
screens and I can see the chat and the meeting room.
Yeah,
I just
no
won't
fe-
be able to do that in the beginning slides because I need to be reading the notes. But after that, I can be on top of it.
Yeah, there's no feedback, Robin, so that
Thank
work?
you. Just won't be able to see my face, but I think that's all right. A second. Maybe you can have it on for the beginning. Okay, great. Hi, Charles. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, Sylvan will be here soon.
Hopefully, yeah.
See.
Is there any way to turn that, click that box for getting the recording has started box off the screen?
Yeah, you just have to hit the X.
Oh, I can do it? Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. It
That's
shows
better.
up on everybody's screen when they join, just so that they know that they're being recorded. So I'll just go through and double check that there's no gross errors anywhere. So when we get to this slide, Sarah, you can pass things over to Sylvan.
Okay.
Yeah, this will be your cue to introduce him.
Got it. The fall leaf, an unpleasant reminder of the season change.
Can you believe I took that photo almost a month ago now, though?
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
I went for a hike and there was one leaf, one red leaf.
We've got a tree in just behind our neighbor's property. It turns early and holy cow, like I think it's been like pumpkin orange for about 4 weeks. It just,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the other trees are green. The tree is spectacular. I was saying to Fran, I'm worried that there's a tree that kind of partially hides it and it's still fully leafed in green. And I was saying to Fran, wow, the tree that's usually spectacular is going to lose its leaves before we get a chance to see it properly.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah, I've got my fingers crossed as well, Robin. But the tree is it just stands alone. It's on its own. It's a beautiful tree.
Sorry, what kind is it? Did you say?
It's a maple.
Oh, it's a maple. Okay.
I was just checking for any notes from Sylvain. I don't see anything. Hopefully he joins soon.
Just make sure I don't have any notifications pop up on screen while I'm sharing this.
Robin, if people want to set up a, is the link in, sorry, I didn't see in the, is the link in the chat to set up a one-on-one if they want to? Is that there? Or is that just,
No.
who do they?
We lost those links. They want something ridiculous like $40 a month for us to maintain those links.
Oh, okay, so,
Which I didn't realize when I had created them.
right.
But you can have people email
Yeah.
me directly if they want to set up an interview.
Okay, Robin.Lawson, okay. Or indicate it in the survey, right?
Yeah. Or if they don't catch your email, they could write to info.
Yeah.
Or info email, and Lisa could just keep an eye on that. I think she looks at it every day.
Oh, okay, I'll say that info at Center for Land
Yeah,
Conservation.
I mean, that's the email at the end of the presentation. It might just be easier than having another email address.
Yeah,
But
that's
you
good.
might want to give Lisa a heads up just to make sure she is checking that.
Yep.
Frequently.
Yeah, I think it just goes, she has it set up so it just goes right, it merges with her main inbox.
Yeah, yeah.
She sees it.
Yeah.
Be right back. Oh, maybe not.
Ah, Sylvan is waiting in the lobby. Oops, I didn't see that notification.
Are you able to admit him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello,
Okay.
sorry to keep you in the lobby.
No problem. Sorry about the few things that were conflicting with me being able to show up early, but we're all set.
Good.
So what's the final attendance or expectation?
I think about 32, maybe.
Okay.
That's what I saw. Let's check quick in the old view. 33.
33. Okay. And Shal, for tomorrow, how many do we have?
There's 12 for tomorrow.
Well, okay.
And so then the Robin and is recording this session. Just,
Okay.
I think that was mentioned previously, but in case not, and then Robin and Sarah want to make this available, put it up on, I guess, YouTube, so that people who aren't able to participate can see it at a later date.
All right.
Okay.
And I think Charles and I are expecting the French version by the end of today. Is that still on target?
Yes, as soon as I get it back from our translation service, you'll have it.
Okay. Very good.
And so quickly, I'm going to do the introductions and then I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, who's going to talk about a bit of the background of the studies and the forever protected report. And then Sarah will hand it over to you, Sylvain, to talk about all of the insurance information and all of that fun technical stuff. And then I'll do a small closeout at the end.
Okay. So basically, I'm coming in at page 14.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Anything special? This looks to me, this is like a team meeting with 40 people, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. We've got some people joining. I'll let them wait in the lobby for a couple more minutes before letting them in, just so we can finish any of our talking. My audio's okay. You're not getting any background noise.
Yeah, it's good.
Sarah, yours sounds good. Sylvain, yours sounded good as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start admitting people like Caroline Schultz, John Kintar, and Sheila. Welcome and thanks for joining us. Those of you that are already here, we're just going to give a few more minutes to let everybody else join, but feel free to talk amongst yourselves or jump on in the chat. It's great to see you here. Thanks. Thanks to everybody who's joining us. I think we'll give it just one more minute here to let everybody who's going to be join in. So thanks to everyone who's already. All right, welcome everybody. For those of your colleagues who couldn't join us, we will be recording, and just to let you all know that you are being recorded for the webinar so we can share it after the fact. So welcome to the Center for Land Conservation's webinar on exploring legal defense for conservation lands and easements in Canada. I'd like to start off with the land acknowledgements. For millennia, Indigenous peoples have been the keepers of lands, waters, and wildlife. At the Center for Land Conservation, we recognize that Indigenous histories, experiences, and traditional ecological knowledge are integral to successful conservation and restoration in Canada. While we may all be joining from different places, as your host today, I would like to acknowledge that our offices at CLC are located in Ottawa, which is on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. We invite all of you to take a brief moment to reflect on whose land you're joining us from today and the significance of this history. So the Center for Land Conservation, as many of you know, is Canada's Institute for Land Conservation Research and Policy Development. Oh, I think something might not be calling you. I'm getting a bit of feedback. Just. How's that?
That's better.
Excellent. Thank you. Where were we? Right. As many of you already know, the Centre for Land Conservation is Canada's Institute for Land Conservation Research and Policy Development. CLC is also the stewards of the Canadian Land Trust Standards and Practices. So the Centre for Land Conservation champions a whole landscape, whole of society approach to conservation. As an independent organization, CLC is able to move quickly and work across sectors to realize more, better, and faster conservation in Canada through a collaborative approach to research and inclusive policy development. By taking this collaborative approach, CLC aims to paint a clear picture of the crucial conservation work being done in Canada by all of you joining today and many more, as well as highlight innovative approaches and new technologies towards developing resilient landscapes. Today we're being joined by Sylvain Dion of Dion Strategic Consulting, and Sarah Winterton from the Center for Land Conservation, as well as myself. So on today's webinar, Sarah's going to give a bit of a background on the feasibility studies and the previous Forever Protected report, as well as the methodology for the current study and some of our findings so far. And then Sylvain is going to talk to us all about insurance facilities and what possibilities there are for us. That will be followed by a Q&A and a bit of a conclusion. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah. Oh, I almost forgot. We would really like to thank Environment and Climate Change Canada for their interest, advice, and financial support of this project. Sarah.
Thanks, Robin. Nice to see everybody today. Really happy to be here to share with you the work that we've been doing. That's building from the Forever Protected report that we put out almost a year ago now. I think it was last October when we finished the research and editing and everything for Forever Protected, the potential for sector-wide approaches to stewardship and legal defense of private conservation lands. This report is on the website. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, you can download it there in both English and French. And this report was this was done to really dive into the top priorities that had been identified by the land trust sector around stewardship, endowment, and legal defense. And we were able to, in addition to general research, we were able to have some fantastic conversations with 44 colleagues throughout the sector and really get a good handle on the different capacities, the different opportunities that the sector sees, the different I guess anxieties that are there, especially around legal defense. And in doing this work, we were really looking at how can we support land trusts in their goals around stewardship, endowment, and legal defense, and we're examining the opportunity to create national programs that might be able to serve that purpose for everyone, particularly looking at the program run by Canada Cultural Investment Fund for the arts and culture sector, and the Terra Firma program in the US, which supports land trusts around legal defense. The arts and culture sector are being supported for stewardship endowment funds. So of the many findings and recommendations that came out of the Forever Protected report, particularly in relation to a legal defense program, was the idea of conducting a more in-depth feasibility study. And that's what we're engaged in now. And the goals of the feasibility study are here to assess the legal risks facing private conservation organizations and deepen the information available about legal issues encountered by land trusts, ensure a good understanding of insurance reciprocals, which we'll hear more about today from Sylvain, and to identify the effective and efficient ways to provide legal protection while assessing what model could meet the needs of land trusts. And when we say that, we're thinking of a model that it's got to be a model that's going to meet the needs of all land trusts from small to large. And so it's there's a lot of questions in that, and but that's a very important goal. So what we've been doing so far is collecting data and analysis, no surprise, trying to get as much information as we can that's available publicly, so that we're not having to ask everybody the same questions again. And then we've created 2 online surveys. One is focuses on legal defense, and the other on stewardship endowment. And these are really designed to drill down into questions that we can't get from public information. So we really need to ask you and hear from you on what your experience is and what you've been doing around these 2 issues. So today, in speaking about legal defense, we know that many people have filled out the survey, and we're really encouraging to fill anybody who hasn't to please fill it out in the near future. If you could pop back a little bit, Rob, back 1 slide. I just wanted to finish that last part. Is that possible? Oh, thank you. We've also again had the privilege of many one-on-one discussions with people working in land trusts, connected with land trusts, continuing conversations with Terra Firma in the States just to get a handle on their experience, ask questions, get advice. And we've also had the benefit of working with Sylvain Dion at Dion Strategic, who is an expert in this field. And And today we're having the first of 2 webinars that are planned so far that are focusing on these questions. Thanks. Next slide, please, Rowan. So looking at some of the findings to date, I have to look at my monitor over here because I can't read that, it's too small. It's interesting, if you look at the grid, where we look at perceived risks to conservation lands in the conversations and from the surveys that have been filled out so far, we're getting these types of results. So if you look at of most concern, number 1, people have identified expropriation of properties as number 1, boundary challenges, challenges to conservation easements, including by the landowner, other challenges, and then issues arising from the change in ownership. When we ask the question about what legal issues have you experienced so far, actually the breakdown is interesting. So far, 60% haven't experienced any legal issues, and 40% have identified that they have. So the ones that have been experienced so far, third-party trespass is top, although the one, if you compare it to what people are most interested, or sorry, most concerned about, third-party trespass is definitely not number 1 on that list, but it's the one that most people are experiencing at the moment or have in the past. External development pressures or actions that resulted in degradation of the conservation value of the property, 40%. Boundary challenges, and then challenges to conservation easements. So this represents, it's not a huge sample of experience that we've heard about so far, but it certainly gives us a glimpse on the types of issues that organizations are experiencing or have experienced in the past, and also gives us a really good glimpse at what people are concerned about. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, looking in the wrong place. So legal defense findings to date. So in the interviews that we did for Forever Protected, and certainly in the conversations that we've been having around the feasibility study, there is a higher concern about conservation agreements, and particularly what will happen when that agreement changes hands. And many organizations, many land trusts haven't gone through that yet, but it is definitely high on their lists of concerns. And this relates to the second point here, that the method that is the most important for organizations to be using in order to assure the conservation easement passes, is one, functioning well now, and then in the future, if it changes hands, is to have the capacity to build and maintain strong relationships with the landowner currently, so that then migrates into strong and strong relationships with landowners that may be in the future. And this capacity issue varies from organization to organization, because it's as you all know, it's time consuming, and it requires a lot of dedication and frequency. And so it is a concern from a capacity point of view. The other one is the impact on the organization if they are in or have been in a settlement or claims process. And the impact is basically on existing staff time and priorities. And if that process is taking a long time, then that impact goes on for a long time and diverts staff or volunteers from what they might otherwise be doing. And it was also raised the issue that if there is a settlement process, that regular staff time who have just been sort of seconded to look at that, to work on the settlement or claim, they're not compensated for that as an organization. They can only be compensated if they've hired somebody extra in order to do the work. So it hits an organization in different ways. Another point that has been raised, which is important, is that having a strong legal defense program that everybody is tapped into and supported by takes care of a lot of the, could help to take care of like the impact that an organization is experiencing if they're going through a settlement or claims process. It also presents a really strong case to a potential donor, a landowner, or an easement, because they can see that their properties are going to go into a system where there's strong protection for the backing the land trust in this role of accepting the property and looking after it in perpetuity. So it's a strong signal to a donor that the lands that are very important to them will be safeguarded and have a lot of strength behind them. Another high concern is, just pop back for 1 sec, please. Another high concern is over individual legal issues that a particular land trust may be facing or dealing with, possibly setting a precedent for the whole sector. So again, if there's a program that is supporting everybody, then this diminishes that risk. Finally, again, concerns about availability of funds. A lot of organizations don't necessarily have the capacity to be putting away a lot of funds into a legal defense fund that they may or may not need to use. It's impacting their ability to raise funds for their core operations. So it isn't necessarily able to be a top priority to build that fund. So with a national program, it's been pretty much 100% acknowledgement that this would help alleviate that issue as well, so that organizations aren't necessarily on the hook for having to raise that money themselves. Next slide, please. So in the current context of doing the feasibility study and trying to bring together as strong a picture as we can of what land trusts of all sizes are concerned about, and what they may in fact be dealing with, is the answer to this question of what is the frequency and severity of legal issues you currently face. And we know there are a range of contexts that land trusts are working in. So you've got land trusts who are working in a highly populated region, like in Southern Ontario. You've got land trusts that are working in areas that may in Southern Canada that might not be quite so fragmented as Southern Ontario, but they've got different risks that they might be facing. So having a good picture of the different contexts and different situations, different risks that land trusts may be facing depending on their geographic location is really important. And we want to be able to reflect the diversity of these situations. So answers to those questions can only come from you directly. And so we really appreciate getting as much information as possible from you through the legal defense survey that's still available. A word on timing: we're aiming to have drafts of these both reports ready kind of late fall. We're working on a deadline end of October-ish, which might be extended, but we'll certainly keep you informed of how that timing is going and let you know when it's ready to review. In the meantime, getting as many responses as possible on the survey, and if you're interested in a one-on-one conversation, we'd be happy to set that up as well. You can just email us at info@centerforlandconservation.org in order to do that. And we'll put the links to the surveys in the chat so it's easy for you to find. And then, so I think that kind of wraps up my overview of where we're at and where things are going. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add, Bob, to the work so far before we invite Sylvain to do his presentation.
No, that's great, Sarah. Thanks for that. Yeah, let's turn it over to Sylvain.
Okay. Over to you, Sylvain.
Yeah, I was on mute. I muted myself. So you can hear me now? Okay, good. So thank you for inviting me to this webinar. Just to explain to you who I am, so Sylvain Dion, an actuary by background. Dion Strategic is independent actuarial and consulting firm. By independent, I mean we're not here to sell you insurance, or we're not owned by a bank or whatever. So and we provide advice to situation like we have here. And I was introduced to Bob McLean by a common friend, and it was easy for me to be convinced to participate in the effort. First, because we do a lot of our work, most of our work as advisor for the not-for-profit sector, and I certainly have a broad interest in the conservation sector, and God knows that there will be many challenges in the future, as we've seen recently. And our expertise is really with the law of large numbers, trying to solve problems or issue that affect a number of organizations that can band together, that individually would be a challenge, but as they get together, then it multiplies their strength in dealing with the issues. And I certainly feel that the issue we're discussing today is one of those low frequency, but potentially high severity when there is a challenge happening. So that makes it quite appropriate to look at a grouping. So if we look at the next slide, just as an introduction, I think you're probably, as consumers yourself, you're familiar. There's an insurance world out there where you buy your homeowners, tenant insurance, automobile insurance. You might be familiar with companies like Intact and Desjardins and Aviva. So that's what we call the commercial insurance market. You might be also familiar as an individual land trust. Maybe you buy some commercial general liability property insurance, and again, you would buy that through the traditional market. But there is an entire separate world there of, I will call them insurance facility, where a group of insurance consumer have joined together, usually, or have taken the matter in their own hands individually or collectively to resolve issue. And that's what we call an insurance facility. An insurance facility is really one of those organizations that will provide coverage to members or policyholder, but it's not a commercial insurance company for profit that will sell insurance to everybody. It's really a private enterprise facility that is focused on a specific client or industry. In a way, if you've heard about mutual companies, that would be part of those facilities, mutual companies that are put together to deal with farming, in certain region. So these insurance facility or special purpose insurance facilities are regulated at federal or provincial level. So it's not like a bank account, and it's really regulated. And if you've heard the term reciprocal, captive, self-insurance program, that's what we're talking about. And I'll give you some example in a few minutes. Each province and territory has its own regulatory framework to deal with this. In general, it's quite common. It's quite similar regulatory framework in the common law provinces. Would be different in Quebec because of the different legal system with the civil code. And that's something that has to be recognized when you look at an insurance facility to solve a national program, to recognize the differences that may exist between common law and civil law that will impact the nature of the claims and how they are dealt with, but also the regulatory environment will be different. The next bullet point there, special purpose insurance facility. We talk about captive insurer or reciprocal insurance exchange. And I can tell you as an independent advisor, we could care less what it is called as long as it solves the problem or the issue that we're trying to do. So captive insurance company, there's probably 7 to 10,000 of those throughout the world. So this is not a new vehicle. In Canada, Alberta and British Columbia have specific regulation to allow captive insurance company separately from commercial for-profit insurance company. And as the word says, captive, they are captive, what they insure the risk of a captive group of people. They are not designed to be transacted in the public. They address the need of a specific industry and usually a specific coverage or legal issue. Reciprocal insurance exchange are similar vehicles that are allowed in pretty much all the common law provinces. And as the word said, reciprocal, in addition to being a vehicle to self-insure, the members are reciprocating, meaning by that, if, for example, Sarah and I were in one of those reciprocal and we put some money in and Sarah has a claim of 100,000 and I have no claim, I have to share in the pain with Sarah. So the participant in there reciprocate that if there is money to be paid beyond the premiums that have been paid, they will share in the claim, or if there is a positive outcome, they will share in the surpluses that may be developed over time. And as I said, the use of this, the type of insurance facility will depend on what we're trying to achieve. And I think terra firma, which you've heard, there is a precedent there that is beautiful for what we're trying to address. Terra firma was put together in the US, different legal environment, to do specifically what we're trying to do in Canada. So and in this case, it's a US-based reciprocal exchange where many of the land trusts exchange risk, basically. Next page. Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me, we're already there. Yeah. So reciprocal are a group of businesses and organization, and they are called subscriber that band together to transfer risk. And the governing document is called a subscription agreement. And I think I'll give you some example because that sounds like a lot of words, but I'll give you an example. In Ontario, you're probably familiar that electricity is produced by what used to be called Ontario Hydro, I guess. I think it's a different name now. But electricity is distributed by local distribution company like Toronto Hydro, Ottawa Hydro, Oakville Hydro. There's 60 distributor. If you go back 30 years ago, they found themselves without the ability to buy liability insurance. The insurer totally disappeared on them. There was at the time 300 of these electric distributor, and given that they could not buy insurance, they decided to get together, create a reciprocal for the industry so they could provide themselves with liability insurance. Tremendous success. 35 years after, I think they were created in 87, 35 years after, they saved tons of money to the subscriber, these electric utility distributor, and they are able to address if there's any legal claim of any sort. They've established precedent. They know how to deal with the claims, don't need to reinvent the wheel. And the reciprocal have been used by school board, by university, Canadian University have a reciprocal. So that's quite a tool that has been used effectively. And basically what is involved on the second bullet on that page is a fund is being set up instead of buying insurance. Now, in the case of legal expense, for the conservation sector, I'm not sure there's an alternative to buy insurance specifically for that coverage. So the fund or the reciprocal would be set up to provide that kind of coverage for the collective risk of the sector. And like I said, the reciprocal are often used when the traditional market does not respond to the subscriber. You may be familiar, the commercial insurers, since their goal is to make a profit, that will impact how they price, and that will impact the coverage they provide. Often there's exclusion that as a person in the sector, you would not exclude. Because it doesn't make sense to exclude it. So traditional market may exclude it. So just summarizing the reciprocal exchange, the policyholders, so in this case, the land trust, would pool their resources to insure each other risk. So in a way, each land trust is an insured and an insurer in that process. And the subscriber agree to share the risk and losses among the group. Now, don't be concerned at this stage with, oh my God, we're going to be called in to pay an amount of money if there's a large claim. If you look at all the reciprocals that have been set up, I don't think there's been any which have gone back for retro assessment. Either they are funded conservatively through premium, or they get an allocation of fund from a donor or the industry to put enough money in the reciprocal to cover the future potential claims. As I said, they've been used effectively for electric utility, school board, and other group. It's not a new, we're not creating something new that doesn't exist. And Terra Firma is actually using that model based in the US. And I think I've said that to the team at the center. Great work on the Forever study. And I've reviewed the material from Terra Firma. Well done in terms of solving a problem. So if we go to the next page, in terms of the benefits of creating an insurance reciprocal facility, these are some of the example. Since you control the facility as opposed to being controlled by the commercial insurance market, you certainly would gain in whatever the cost of that, provide stability and making sure that the coverage is there, not on a short-term basis, but long-term basis. You can customize the insurance program. It still has to make sense in terms of any exposure to catastrophe, but you can customize the design. And sometimes that coverage is not available or not insurable in the traditional market. You can address any unique risk exposure. And obviously, because you control it, you get the benefit of any investment income, any profit that the commercial insurer would have made, will be part of your reciprocal. And as a sector, you can solve. I don't know what a claim would do to you individually. It likely would throw off your budget, your cash flow, and this is a way to transfer that risk of fluctuation into a common structure. And this is the most important thing, is when you get together with a similar issue, it's amazing what you can do from claims management or incident management or risk management point of view by working together and having centralized resources and being able to save on administrative and legal costs. And then finally, a reciprocal is considered an insurance vehicle and you have access to reinsurance market. I'm not sure if this will be useful here, but if there's a need in case of a catastrophe to have access to capacity, insurance capacity, the reinsurance market would be the way to go. We go to the next slide. some preliminary sharing with you, okay, what do we need to do in terms of establishing that insurance facility? Sarah mentioned obviously the feasibility study, but past that, let's say that the feasibility study determined that this is a go. The things that would be important to establish would be the overall governance and management. So this is a real enterprise. This is not something real enterprise with either a board of subscriber, which would be similar to a board of trustees or a board of director. And there would be some management starting. The term used for reciprocal is attorney in fact. And the attorney in fact, it doesn't mean it needs to be a lawyer or she needs to be a lawyer, but the attorney in fact is basically the CEO of the reciprocal, is the one that is transacting the business of the reciprocal. And in terms going back to the governance, board of subscriber or a board of trustees typically could be as small as 3, could be probably 7 to 9. The subscriber would come from the participant, but very important that when you are on the board, you're there to represent the facility, the reciprocal, and as opposed to acting for your own interests. So proper governance. Coverage would have to be determined. So there will be, notwithstanding it's a reciprocal, there would be a coverage document. It would be subject to underwriting and eligibility, need to protect the pool with respect to participant that may not do proper risk management or may have totally unique circumstances. There would be centralized claims and claims management, and I would point not only claims and claims management, but incident management. There's a lot to be learned from events that don't result in claims. There will have to be capitalization. One of the reasons you may ask, well, why don't we start our own commercial insurance company? One of the issue with that is you would need probably $20 million as a starting point. The regulators in the different provinces have recognized that if we're dealing with a reciprocal or a captive that is specific to an industry, a coverage, there's no need to capitalize like a commercial insurance company. But that being said, there would be a need for an amount of initial funding that would be determined by the feasibility study. There would be a need for ongoing premiums and funding, like a budget, cover the cost of claim, the cost of administration. That could be something that is pre-funded well in advance. We'll look at that in the feasibility study. As I said, there might be opportunity to buy reinsurance to share some of the risk with external risk taker, probably not initially. And the facility would generate some investment, some accumulation of investment to protect the pool, but also claims reserve. So there would be a need for an investment policy. So if we go to the next slide, basically the next step is the first thing is to do an actuarial analysis with a business case with pro forma, and that will determine if this is a go, no-go decision, and if it is a go decision, on what basis, meaning by that capitalization, premium requirement, structure, those kinds of items. And if it is a go decision from a feasibility point of view, this will require a commitment from the sector that will require a leadership group to push the initiative forward. There will be a licensing process involved with the regulator, and then ultimately the implementation, including the financial aspect of that implementation. If we go to the next slide, stressing a few points that were mentioned before, the feasibility study or the actuarial analysis and business case is highly dependent on the quality of the information that is provided. And from that point of view, the survey that is underway and related discussion will be extremely important, not only for the numbers, but also the nature of the coverage and other aspects. And I've stressed to you before that my understanding of the risk involved, low frequency, high severity, are lend themselves to certainly the kind of insurance facility that we've talked about. So the survey, I think Sarah did the marketing of the survey, so you have the possibility in terms of following up with an email. And I think I'll turn it around back to Robin.
Great. Thanks so much. So just a final reminder to register for the Stewardship Endowment webinar if you haven't gotten the chance yet. That's happening September 26th in English and on the 27th in French. If you have any Francophone colleagues, we are running this webinar en français tomorrow at the same time. So please invite them to join. And a final thank you so much to all the organizations who've already given their time to answer the survey or participate in interviews. The information you've provided is incredibly helpful to these studies. We're also very grateful for the funding received from CWS and ECCC, which made these studies possible. If you have any more questions, you can drop us an email at info@centerforlandconservation.org. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to all of you. If you have any questions for our speakers, you can raise your hand or put the question into the chat directly. So we've got a question in the chat from Guy. Have you collected the legal precedents from across the country that have to do with private land conservation? Bob, you seem keen to answer that.
Well, I was going to leave that too. We are making the best efforts, Guy, to do exactly that. So that's part of the legal defense survey, where an organization indicates that it has had an issue, then the particular details, such as the costs involved, the time involved, the significance of the event. So we're doing that both through the survey as well as the one-on-one follow-up calls. But Guy, sorry, it may be Guy. Sorry, I'm so used to saying Guy, but Guy, it's also the reason why we are kind of re-emphasizing the importance of the survey. The actuarial analysis that Sylvain alluded to is definitely going to depend on those legal precedents, if you will. I hope I'm understanding your question correctly. The legal precedents and kind of the specifics of those cases and what was involved on the part of the land trust. I hope that answered your question, Guy.
Great. And Susan Marie asking if the slides from the webinar will be available. We will put the slides as well as a recording of the webinars up on our website once we have them ready.
Just while we wait for other questions, a question that has come up in a couple or three of the calls that we've had. So then we were asked a few times, yes, the insurance reciprocal is focused on risk issues that the commercial sector doesn't cover. Let's pretend that we had a Terra Firma Canada established. Could the sector over time identify other risks, perhaps that can be covered by commercial insurance, but actually add that to the risks that are covered by a Terra Firma Canada?
Yep, absolutely. In fact, many of the reciprocal have started by addressing the issue of main concern, but over time have moved to provide other coverages. So I was talking about the electric utilities. Their big issue up front was really this commercial general liability, but over time they've moved to address property, to address commercial vehicle exposure, cyber liability for the industry, also building new infrastructure costs. So because these vehicles are very effective, people may not know that, but in the commercial market, you pay $1 of premium and about 35 cents of the dollar are friction costs. What I mean by that, 35% is not used to pay claim. And usually in the reciprocal environment, you can really make that better. And also the reciprocal could be used as a vehicle to just amalgamate like property insurance coverage and then resell it as a package to an insurer. And that would make it more effective. So the answer is yes.
Thank you.
There was yeah.
Yeah, lots of questions in the chat. First, so what are the costs for U.S. land trusts participating in terra firma, and do they get support from funders or governments to pay for legal defense?
The costs, as I'm remembering them, it works out to be about $63 per parcel it's being insured through the terra firma program. But then they've got they group quantities of they group a cost based on quantity of properties that are being put into the program. And those, it's so you pay a set amount for like 1 to 25 properties, and then a different amount if you've got more than that. And it's sort of they put the breakdown on their website. They also offer discounts for land trusts that are accredited. They get a savings. And then those that aren't accredited, because they have a mix of both in the program. Those that aren't, if they do participate in best practice webinars or trainings, then they will get a discount as well. Terra firma was launched with a big I think it was a foundation funding to get the whole thing off the ground of about $5 million.
To capitalize
Yeah,
the company,
yeah,
but they do
yeah.
charge premium ongoing.
That's
and
right.
As everybody would know, the legal environment in the US is quite different than in Canada. Actually, it varies very much by state. So a different challenge, certainly, than the environment. If I may, I can answer maybe the next couple of questions. Good question. Do reciprocal create reputation based on their choices to either typically settle, typically fight, or to take a balanced approach? You're right. There is a need to establish a claims management philosophy. Unfortunately, in the traditional market, as you know, insurer will settle claims against the wishes of the clients. So you have more control within the reciprocal, but there needs to be a philosophy, and certainly with all the organization we work with, the issue of creating a precedent is very much on their mind. It may not be important for one insurer insuring one entity in an industry, but when you represent the industry, you have to be mindful of creating any precedent. But I would say, so typically that's the approach that is being used, but there's no reputation per se. Then how would you assess the relative risk? That's part. So as part of the process of implementation, there's a need to determine the capitalization, but then there is a need to determine the pricing and the funding. Now, so just there's two concepts there. Funding means how much money do we need in total for this thing to work in the future, aside from the capitalization. The pricing is more, okay, we need, let's say, I'm just going to throw a number, we need $1 million of ongoing premium. Pricing is how do we distribute that $1 million? Is it the same for each land trust? Is it based on size of the land trust? Is it based on location? So I think if there is a need, if the funding is not being addressed through some kind of contribution in total, then there's a need to address how it will be distributed or charged to each participant. So there will be an algorithm that would be determined that takes into account different risk factors.
Very quickly, a couple of additional comments, if I may, with respect to the insurance cost. I'm quite sure, Sarah, we have in Forever Protected the table that describes the costs that you have. So I think Robin included a link to Forever Protected, and you'll find a table with the premium fees and the adjustments that are made for organizations that have a large number of properties, organizations that are accredited, or organizations that have done, I'll call it legal due diligence training before they're offered insurance via Terra Firma. So some factual information, you can get it from the Terra Firma website, but it's also, I think, conveniently in our Forever Protected report. I think with respect to John Kintar's comment, and correct me, Sylvain, if my understanding is incorrect, but one of the advantages of an insurance reciprocal, the insurers being also the insured, there would be an internal mechanism within the facility to actually say, you know, that case is really important. We don't want to settle it. The case is important not just to the organization, but it's important to the sector, and therefore actually having the legal fight. So
Absolutely, Bob. And usually in a significant situation like that, the board of subscriber would be involved to discuss the case and agree on a direction that is aligned on what the sector would like to see. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it can be, John, it can be very responsive to the needs of the sector.
Just jumping in to answer Guy's question, is that terra firma cost per parcel different for conservation easements versus fee simple parcels? No, it includes I'm just looking, it includes conservation easements, fee properties, trail easements, and access easements.
Right. Any final questions? If you do have a question that you think of after the fact, again, feel free to email us at info@centerforlandconservation.ca. No, sorry, that's .org, not .ca. I make that mistake too often. And that's center, CENTRE.
And great, not seeing any other questions or comments. Thanks very much to Robin and Sarah and Sylvain for leading us through this webinar, and really appreciate the terrific work that you're doing. And we collectively really appreciate the participation in this webinar and the support for the work that we're doing through this legal defense study. So thanks so much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.